Inflation is made in Washington because only Washington can create money. And any other attribution to other groups of inflation is wrong. Consumers don't produce it. Producers don't produce it. The trade unions don't produce it. Foreign sheiks don't produce it. Oil imports don't produce it. What produces it is too much government spending and too much government creation of money and nothing else.
We used to have people talk like that in this country. I miss those days. Joining me now, Peter St. Onge, economist, research fellow, Heritage Foundation. Peter, it's amazing to me that you see these people like Janet Yellen get up there, and I obviously I'm not a Janet Yellen fan, but she got 18,000 degrees from all the fanciest universities, and inflation just shocked her, Peter, just stunned her. Now, I'm a moron. I watched us print $5 trillion in the course of about a year. I knew inflation was coming, and yet it stuns all the smartest people in our society. What a bunch of liars.
Yeah, and it is absolutely lies. You know, there was just a paper by Bernanke and Blanchard just a couple weeks ago that was going through this. It's an entire exercise where they scapegoat everything on earth to try to pin this inflation on, instead of accepting what everybody's known for centuries, which is that inflation is caused when you print money. That is the only cause of it. The rest of it is, really excuses. And, they played this exact same game in the 1970s. When inflation was taking off in the 70s, they had this whole song and dance. They were blaming, of course, the Middle East, right, with the oil embargo. That's what jumped the prices up initially. But that was not the cause of 10 years of inflation, all right, because the inflation was in double digits. Even when oil started coming back down, they were looking for everything they could think of. They were on about we're running out of stuff. We have overpopulation. It's like these guys sit here and troll through the newspaper, and any excuse they can possibly find, they put that on their list instead of telling the truth, which is that in the 1970s and today, this inflation is caused by too much money printing. The main reason for the money printing is to fund government deficits.
I don't think people understand that there's an end to this. And as much as I try to explain this to people, it's hard because we haven't ever run into a problem where the debt broke us as a nation. But that's as inevitable as gravity. And so they just keep doing it. Both parties just keep doing it, just keep racking up $1 trillion deficit here and $1 trillion deficit there. It's crazy that it's an addiction. And more than that, the voters don't care. The voters don't vote on spending. They never have, they never will.
Yeah, voters don't treat the money as if it's real. I mean, it's funny when you get down to it, right? We're looking at $31 trillion in debt. Now Kevin McCarthy has just green-lighted it towards $36 trillion. And that comes out to about $300,000 per American who pays income tax. All right, so forget your mortgage. All right, you owe an additional $300,000 in debt. And voters don't treat it like that. When we saw this with the student loans last year that Joe Biden was going to forgive them all. Well, those student loans, that's one of the main assets that the U.S. government has, is those loans, which means that they belong to you, the debt, you, the citizen. That was your money. And yet most Americans, they said, oh, yeah, sounds like a good idea. Like it never occurred to them that, whatever it was, 600 billion, $1 trillion, that was your money. And that's part of what our system does now, is that it hides from voters the fact that all that debt, someday you are going to have to pay that off. If you don't pay it off, then, it won't be 300, it'll be 500 for your kids to pay off. Maybe it'll be 700 for your grandkids to pay off. It hides all of this so that voters, you almost feel like you're crying wolf, where voters don't think the debt is real. They don't act like it's real. They don't vote like it's real for sure. And the reason is that we haven't hit a crisis yet. And, several times through history, at least twice, the country has been consumed by hyperinflationary collapse right after the revolution with the Continentals and then the greenbacks under Lincoln. So, this is not science fiction. It was headed off twice by FDR and Nixon effectively defaulting on the dollar by defaulting on gold. So they transformed the dollar from an actual real asset representing a certain amount of gold into just random tokens. And so that sort of, kept the wolf away from the door for a minute, this partial default. But the bottom line is that, whatever can't go on forever will stop, and you cannot keep printing forever, because at some point, people who in theory would buy all of those government bonds, they start thinking, well, maybe I should believe voters. Maybe voters don't think this is real because they have no intention of paying it off. Look, if the U.S. government woke up tomorrow and announced that it was not going to pay debt, who's going to make us? That's that. You issue brand new debt for the widows and orphans, and you cover Social Security and the pensions, and the rest of them, the Chinese, Wall Street, the rest of them, you just cut them off. You say, hey, too bad, you guys screwed up. You shouldn't have believed us.
For too long, we've been led to believe that communism is a thing of the past. But the truth is, communism is alive. It's here, and it's infiltrating every aspect of American life. Introducing the Anti-Communist Manifesto by Jesse Kelly, the practical guide for patriots ready to defend our nation from its most dangerous enemy. Discover the shocking extent of communist infiltration in our education system, their alliance with American corporations, and the twisted truth behind environmentalism. This eye-opening book exposes the true face of communism and empowers you to fight back. Join the fight for freedom. Pre-order your copy of the Anti-Communist Manifesto today by going to jessekelleybook.com.